Ceuta is an autonomous city in the Kingdom of Spain located on the northwest coast of Morocco. Covering an area of 18.5 kilometers squared, it has just under 85,000 inhabitants. Ceuta, like its neighbor Melilla to the east, is a Spanish enclave in Moroccan territory. Survivors of the Spanish colonial empire, they represent the only land border still existing between Europe and Africa. Located at the Mediterranean Sea, facing the Iberian Peninsula, Ceuta is a few kilometers from the Andalusian coast. This strategic location has made it one of the major routes for migration to Europe. Moreover, the city has come back to forefront recently due to the new migration crisis that has exploded in the region, rekindling diplomatic tensions between Morocco and Spain. But then, what do we really know about Ceuta? What is the story of this city, and how did this Moroccan territory become a Spanish possession? This is the story of this piece of Spain on African soil. Before we begin, if you're new to the channel, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Let's get into it! A coveted city. The history of Ceuta dates back to ancient times. This old city was known as Abila, a peninsula built on Mount Hacho, located opposite Gibraltar. Mount Hacho is considered by some interpretations to be the second column of Hercules, the other being Mount Calpe, Gibraltar. Ceuta was coveted by the Phoenicians and then by the Carthaginians. It then passed into the hands of the Numidians and was then conquered by the Romans during the reign of Emperor Caligula. The city was then integrated into the Roman province of Tingitana, Mauritania. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the city passed quickly into the hands of the Vandals before being conquered by the Byzantine Empire in 534. In addition, the latter gave the city the name of Septem, from which it would be derived Ceuta with S at the beginning and finally Ceuta with C at the beginning. The city then passed into the hands of the Visigothic Iberian Kingdom in 624. During the Muslim conquest, which began in 709, Julian, then governor of Ceuta on behalf of the Visigoths of the Iberian Peninsula, delivered the city to the Umayyads. The fall of the Umayyad Caliphate plunged the city into chaos and successive changes of sovereignty, still under Muslim occupation. At the end of the Middle Ages, the Spanish and Portuguese monarchies began to reconquer the territories of the Iberian Peninsula conquered by the Muslims in a period known as the Reconquista. In 1415, the Portuguese then seized the city of Ceuta. The Spanish victory over the Portuguese at the Battle of Alcantara in 1580 brought the city of Ceuta under Spanish sovereignty. The Treaty of Lisbon of 1668 formalized recognition by Spain. From a Spanish preside to a colonial prison. The city of Ceuta, like Melilla, are presides or fronteras in Spanish. These Spanish presides are in fact military posts intended to protect the Andalusian coast from the Barbary corsairs. These are defensive posts that are not primarily exploited to initiate a conquest inside the country. Their situation is precarious as they depend on supplies from Spain and are often attacked from the neighboring stands. It was at the end of the 18th century that the idea of transforming Ceuta into a penal colony developed. Due to its numerous fortifications and its strategic position in the Strait of Gibraltar, Spain, having already lost several of its territories, is looking to its neighbor to the south to assert its power in a new phase of the new dynamic of European colonialism in Africa. It is through Ceuta that Spain would start the First African War in 1859 and would thus establish a Spanish expansion on Moroccan territories. At the end of the 19th century, Ceuta was then established as an economic and cultural post from Spain to Morocco, but also a penal colony to which prisoners of common law, liberals, and exiles from different territories were sent. In 1889, the Spanish enclave officially became a penal colony. It was not until the establishment of the Franco-Spanish Protectorate in 1912 that the enclave's role as prison was erased to give way to greater economic and urban development. a disparate and multilingual population. Under the Franco-Spanish Protectorate and following the abolition of its status as a penal colony, the city of Ceuta saw its population diversify due to its commercial development and the need for labor. The city attracted a large number of farmers and workers, mainly from the province of Andalusia. A community of Sephardic Jews from Morocco was installed there since the 19th century. The commercial development of the city, which has enjoyed the status of a free port since 1863, also attracts a Hindu community. The creation of the Protectorate would also attract a large Muslim population, which today constitutes 43% of the city's population. On this small territory coexist citizens from different communities and from different cultures. Christians and Muslims for the majority, but also Hindus and Jews. Spanish or Castilian is the only official language identified in this autonomous city. Other languages and dialects are also spoken among the population, such as Ceutan Dialecto Arabic, Judeo-Spanish Jaquitia, Berber, Tamazight, Sindhi, French, etc. Castilian is the mother tongue of a large part of the population. Alongside the Spanish-speaking population, we find the Arabic-speaking community which speaks the Ceutan Arabic dialect, also called Daria, mainly oral and which is the result of several influences. A large majority of Arabic-speaking Muslims are also bilingual in Spanish. An enclave at the heart of the discord between Spain and Morocco. At the time of Morocco's independence, the enclave of Ceuta, like its neighbor Melilla, remained Spanish, despite claims by the Moroccan government. For them, Ceuta is seen as a vestige of the colonial occupation. On the Spanish side, Ceuta is an integral part of its territory. Supported by many Arab countries, Morocco brought its claim for the city to the UN. The Spanish presence in Ceuta, but also in Melilla, is considered an anachronistic situation and belongs to a bygone era of European colonialism in Africa. Moroccan claims followed one another and even came close to a major crisis in 2002 when Morocco decided to occupy the Spanish islet of El Perejil. This episode required the intervention of American diplomacy to find a solution. Today, the claims are still relevant despite a European and Muslim population that displays a conviction of belonging to the Kingdom of Spain and asserts its Hispanic identity. The Spanish sovereignty of Ceuta was declared in the Spanish Constitution of 1978 and was confirmed by its promulgation in 1995 as an autonomous city. Spain's entry into the EU in 1986 made territories of Spanish sovereignty into the municipalities of Europe, although they were excluded from the customs union and the common agricultural policy. In 1991, Spain joined the Schengen area. The country ended up with an external European border. In this context, Spain grants a special exemption to Moroccans residing in the neighboring regions of Tetuan and Nader, who can therefore, as part of a border trade, reach the Spanish enclave. This gave birth to an atypical form of trade, to say the least, between Morocco and Ceuta. On the border between Morocco and the Spanish enclave, a trade, which is at least atypical, has developed. They are nicknamed the Hamelites, carriers. In Morocco and in Spain, they are called the Mujeres Mulas, women mules. There are thousands of women, for the majority, who cross the border every day, carrying on their backs tens of kilos of goods which they sell to Moroccan traders for 10 euros. It is often older, more vulnerable, and often needy women who are forced to do this slave labor. This cross-border trade with dubious legality is explained by the singularity of Ceuta's fiscal situation as a free zone and autonomous extra-peninsular city. Another feature that explains the development of commercial activity between the two borders is the absence of commercial customs with Morocco. The latter refuses to recognize Ceuta as an independent Spanish territory and therefore to formalize a commercial exchange. While waiting to reach an agreement between the two countries, Madrid has reinforced the safety of men and women mules in order to improve their working conditions, and this after 2 women were killed and 84 others were injured, according to the report of the Moroccan parliament. Despite the importance of this contraband trade for Morocco's economy, it decided in 2020 to close the border post reserved for carriers between Spanish enclave of Ceuta and the Moroccan city of Finidic. This closure put an end to the burden of these men and women but plunged them into destitution. It is also a sign of the decline in commercial activity in both the Moroccan region and the Spanish enclave. Ceuta facing the migration crisis. The economic gap between Spain and Morocco prompted several Moroccans to settle illegally in the Spanish enclave in the hope of finding work or even reaching the peninsula. With its status as an autonomous city and its status as a land border between Africa and the European Union, Ceuta quickly positioned itself as a major crossing point for the migratory flow from Morocco and sub-Saharan Africa. Yet the enclave is under heavy surveillance. In the early 2000s, the Spanish authorities erected a barrier to separate Morocco from the Spanish enclave in an attempt to prevent the arrival of migrants. This barrier is 8 kilometers long and 6 meters high. Its high fence is therefore reinforced with barbed wire. Monitoring stations are installed there all along. The barrier is also equipped with video cameras, and an underground cable network has been installed to detect any noise and movement that would indicate a probable intrusion. Since its establishment, this barrier has considerably slowed down the migratory flow and made it difficult to cross borders. However, in May 2021, Ceuta experienced an unprecedented migratory influx. More than 8,000 people, including a significant number of young people and minors, crossed the border between Morocco and Ceuta. This new migratory crisis would be the consequence of an economic crisis in Morocco, reinforced by the closure of the borders with the Spanish enclaves due to the pandemic. Several Moroccans in the north of the country live from formal or informal work between Ceuta and Morocco and therefore found themselves without resources with the health crisis. This migration crisis is also part of the diplomatic standoff between Spain and Morocco over the status of Western Sahara, all against the backdrop of a discord over the Spanish sovereignty of the enclaves of Ceuta and Melilla. As for the migrants, half of them were deported by Spain to Morocco. The other half, many of whom are minors, are taken care of in Ceuta by the Red Cross. We remember this photo that went around the world, that of a Red Cross volunteer offering water to a Senegalese migrant and consoling him in her arms, a gesture that overflows with humanity and brotherhood. Here we are at the end of our video. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like it and share it with others. See you soon in our new video.